Hi, yeah, it's Jackie here from the LGFA, and we're on a Zoom call today, another episode of the LGFA Show, and I have three very special guests, and we're going to have a bit of fun and a bit of crack today, and we're going to talk about refereeing matters. So first off, top left-hand side of my screen is National Development Officer with the LGFA, Clare Dowdall, with remit for referee and player development. Bottom left, I have leading inter-county referee Lorraine O'Sullivan. And on the bottom right, I have another leading inter-county referee, Jonathan Murphy, who was referee, of course, for the 2020 TG4 All-Ireland Senior Final. Well, folks, how are we all doing?
Good,
Great,
Jackie.
yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Good.
Excellent. Clare Dowdall, over to you. What are we going to be talking about today?
Jackie, today's focus is going to be a wee bit on referee development, and from a referee's point of view, we're going to talk about hitting that reset button. It's a topic that we're asked about all the time for up-and-coming referees, about how did they come back from setbacks and challenges, how did they build their resilience, and how do they keep going when them difficult times happen, and basically learn from them, reflect from them, and move on. So hopefully we have a good wee chat and some tips and pointers from the two guys today to help us through.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Lorraine, national referee from Donegal, your next county player, of course. Now coaching with Na Fianna and refereeing in Dublin and on the Leinster panel also. So, Lorraine, pick up on Claire's bullet points there. I suppose, look, we'll start with hitting the reset button as a referee because, look, all of us, we're all humans. We face setbacks, we face challenges along the way. But when you're under the microscope with cameras, and we're doing a lot more streaming these days, and the eyes and multiple eyes are on you, how do you deal with that on the field of play, Lorraine, if something doesn't go according to plan or something out of the ordinary happens?
That's actually a hard question. I would say just in terms, if you're going from game to game, if you have a game where you have something that gets picked up, I'd say whatever it's in the spotlight, you just have to kind of put that behind you, such that you can't sort of let that affect how you referee going forward as such. It's a hard one to answer that as just a general question.
Yeah, do you know the way I'd say
yeah.
in sports psychology, it might be next ball or next play. Is it very much like that for referees, that it's okay, right, that's happened, let's move on, next decision, next phase of play, let's concentrate on that?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, you have to let each decision, you make a decision at a point in time, and you have to just, that's that decision made. You can't look back or let it affect how you referee the rest of the game. If you make a mistake, for example, and you know you've made a mistake, but you obviously can't go back and correct it. You can't referee the game with that in mind and thinking that you have to even it up for the other team as such, or you just have to keep refereeing in your sort of consistent approach that you do. Otherwise you're actually going to make another mistake if you're trying to compensate for what went on before.
Yeah, because we often see that, Jonathan.
It happens. It happens.
He or she's trying to even it up now because after making that decision early on, it's absolute nonsense, really. But Jonathan, social media. So there's a lot of expert referees on social media on a Saturday and a Sunday. They seem to know it all.
Seemingly so, Jackie. Yeah. Listen, I think we've talked about this several times. Just, it's one of my pet hates, I think, is social media. I try to stay away from it as much as possible. I think everyone likes to have their say. At the end of the day, knowledge of the rules is probably the referee's highlight, that he knows what he's doing. As such, listen, we all make mistakes. We're all human. Players make mistakes, but that's not highlighted. If a player misses a ball, it's not made a mistake, I think the mistakes, if we could limit them, I suppose, as regards trying to get the major incidents right. So you're probably talking cards, penalties, yellow, red cards, them kind of decisions. If you can get them right, you're obviously going to miss. Everyone's going to miss a foul. You're going to miss a push in the back. You might miss a double hop. You might miss something, but just get on with that and move on. And as regards, I suppose, next ball or next decision, that we try and get that right. I suppose major mistakes maybe during the game. Lorraine was saying there, like, I don't think you really know you've made a mistake maybe sometimes until you get home and you can watch it back and see it that way. like in that moment in time when you're reffing that match, I honestly think that is the right decision that we've made, because I wouldn't have made that decision. And until you get home and look back, then you realize, oh God, maybe I've done that. And we can all look back at matches now with everything now is across social media. You can look back. And if you can look back and say, listen, this is what I've done wrong, or this is what I need to do the next time, I think that's how we learn from it.
Or until you get a phone call from Clare.
Or an assessment in the door Tuesday evening, or sorry, my email.
Referee and player development is obviously, I regard you as someone that would take a holistic approach to it. That it's the overall, like, we're dealing with human beings here. We're they're not robots, and there have been instances where I would, from the outside looking in, where it's heartening to see that if a referee is coming in for some criticism on social media or wherever the case may be, that the entire refereeing family seems to rally around that person, which I think is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I think that's what we try to get within the group, and I think that's important for every referee in every county board, and that's the biggest thing. And the two guys talked about that reset button, but a huge element of that have been that ability to reset. I think, Jackie, is what you're touching on. You have to have that support. You have to have that sort of critical friend, or that good friend, as we would like to call it in a coaching term. They can be really honest with you and say, you mightn't have got it right there today, but we all make them mistakes, and the next time you go out, you'll be more on fault with it. And I find if the referees are close and have 2 or 3, 4 people that they trust and that they can lean on to, they know that feeling themselves, that feeling of, God, or yeah, I was the right decision and I'm sticking to my guns, or I could do that better the next day. The ability to pick up the phone to each other and bounce it off each other, and then help each other move on and learn from it. And that's always the key thing I say. It's only a mistake if we keep making them, Jackie, because they're human. So we're all going to have that one time where we do something, but if we learn during that time and we develop our game for it, then that mistake might be the best thing that ever happened to that referee, and actually help them grow and develop the step up. But I couldn't sort of stress more the support they have, and the support they form in a group around themselves is probably one of the most important things, having them people around you to support you.
That's brilliant. Lorraine, how did your refereeing journey start, and what attracted you to it?
Lynn Savage forced me to be a referee tutor. And I actually, so I took it on. I hadn't really reffed until I started referee tutoring. And I realized after a couple of sessions that I actually need to go out and referee some games to really give a bit of experience to what I'm tutoring. So I started refereeing in Dublin. And funnily enough, I actually enjoyed it. I didn't think I would, but just progressed from there. Refereed at underage into adult, and then got on to the Accelerate for the national panel. And yeah, here I am now today talking to you about refereeing.
Did you have a newfound respect for referees when you
absolutely
when you became one yourself?
I'll put my hand up and I'll say I would have been quite vocal in questioning a referee decision in my playing days. So yeah, very much so. Yeah, it gives you a totally different perspective on the game itself, and even when you're watching games now, whether it be on the sideline as a coach or whatever, you're much more respectful of the referee and their decision making. And 99 times out of 100, they're probably right with their application of the rules.
I'd agree with that. With that. Jonathan, in terms of preparation on your typical week, I mean, we hear about players training collectively and on their own, and what does an average week look like for you in terms of what you're doing?
Well, it probably depends on when a game is, I suppose, Jackie. I try and train twice a week, and then if you have a match the weekend, you obviously have a match the weekend. If you're not, I'm probably training Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday morning. It involves, I probably should be a bit more sprint work, but it probably involves maybe 8 or 10K, stuff like that. I'm not mad about the sprints, to be honest with you. It's just about getting out, really. And sometimes I find running, having a buddy or something like that, and they making you go or something like that. I mean, if you don't feel up that day, text you, come on, we'll go, and we do that. And that works in both ways. But even sometimes on your own, I would think through scenarios in my head, Jackie, that I've never seen in a match. And I would think through them, and I'd say to myself, what would I do there? And if you don't know the answer, you may go find the answer. So then, as Claire said about those friends, ring those people that you know. I have 4 or 5 very good friends that I probably wouldn't have only for I have that refereeing on the LGFA. And I would give them a buzz, give them a text, see what they think, what they would do. That's probably training the mind while I'm also running, if you know what I mean, trying to work out just the scenarios.
The rule book is quite large, so I mean, how do you manage to absorb everything that's in it, or the vast majority of it anyway?
I think a lot of it can be brought down to interpretation as well. I suppose every referee has a different interpretation of these rules. I think it's that rule book in the bag. Sorry, before every match is taking it out and read it. The night before, the morning of, you're there in the grounds there. You just flick through it every time, and I think by reading it, not by learning it, Jackie, just by reading it, you absorb it. You know, you absorb all those rules. You know, the obscure rules or whatever, the ones that might catch you on the hop, the ones that you're not going to see every day. You have to know them could be match changing decisions at some stage during that match, and you have to know that rule. You know.
We spoke about resilience on a previous show, and it's a theme right through this series. Claire, the resilience required for a referee. Talk to me about that.
I think it's one of their key traits that they need, Jackie, because we probably sort of have touched on it. Everybody wants to have a pop at the referee, you know. They're the neutral person at the game in terms of both teams and management. For one team are all focused on their win, and vice versa for the other team. So you might have the guts of, with panels of 39 and 10 selectors, so you've guts of 50 people from team A versus 50 people in team B, and they all wear rose tinted glasses. So the common enemy usually is the person in the middle. The decision they make, they can't ever make both team A and B happy. So whether it's right or wrong, people are going to automatically have that pop. And if a referee can't deal with that and take that on board and sort of adjust to it and really ignore it, being the honest opinion, they tune out and they don't hear the line anymore, or they don't hear spectators. But that's all a part of building their resilience. And if they can't cope, and that's probably why there's such a drop off in referees, because a lot of people can't cope with that resilience element of it. You know, they can't deal with turning that off, switch off. Or the big thing for me is making it non-personal, because the referee tends to sometimes take that really personal, but they're not shouting at Jonathan Murphy or Lorraine O'Sullivan, they're shouting at the referee. So it's been able to sort of split yourself from that. You know, Jonathan and Lorraine are people in their own identity and have their own lives and everything else, and just for that 1 hour, they're the referee. But they have to build that resilience, I think, to continue on their journey. And it takes time, Jackie, and it's from experience. Unless the right referee in games, the more games the referee, the more experience they get, and the better they are at dealing with situations when they arise.
So, Lorraine, do you have mental strategies or coping mechanisms that you will call upon?
It's kind of a lot of what Claire said there. There's just certain people who, it doesn't matter who that person is in the middle, will be shouting the same stuff. And as Claire said, you just can't take it personally. I try to sort of just, if you do hear shouting or whatever, is just take a few seconds so that you don't sort of react to it. You just kind of, okay, they're just shouting because they're shouting. I suppose the other things then is just as you get more experience as a referee and you start communicating better with the players and the sidelines, you actually cut out a lot of the abuse as well. If you know you're explaining yourself and people know what's going on, so you're sort of mitigating the levels of abuse as such. But yeah, it's that's kind of how I look at it.
Jonathan, would you be a talker to players on the pitch? Because I have to say, right, I like watching referees who they've got a bit of a rapport with players, right? So for example, player X commits a foul, but player X isn't happy, but you'll go over and say, look, player X, this is what happens, this is why I'm giving the free, let's move on. And I think they respect that and they accept that, rather than maybe coming across as the autocratic type of, you can't talk to me, I'm the boss. Or do you have to find a balance, Jonathan? What's the best approach?
I am a talker. To talk
We
to
know
me,
that.
probably Jackie, to talk to me off the field. If you were mic'd up someday when I was on a match, you would not believe what you would hear on a match, because I'm a totally different man when I've got on that field. I talk. I try and stop it before it happens. So if I see something coming, I'm trying to say, don't do that, don't do that. Make sure you're going around all this. I mean, talking. If we can get that before that foul happens, you know. Sometimes, some people will, like, maybe one person will ask, "What's that foul for?" You will answer. You will keep, but sometimes that particular person will keep asking the same person will keep, and they're not looking for the rule. They're just looking to kind of rile you and get under your skin. So eventually, like, you'll just have to say, listen, just here to referee the game. I'm not here to learn you the rules. You know what I mean? But yeah, that has to be a nice balance, Jackie. There's no point in being cocky about it. You know what I mean? There's no point in that.
Claire, what do you like in a referee?
We're just working on a new system with our referees now, and a lot of that's going to be about behaviour. So they're going to be mic'd up and they're looking at everything. And Lorraine was actually one of the first referees to use the system at the weekend, and we used Jonathan's All-Ireland Final as the test match, and with the company when they were doing the analysis. And actually, just moving on Jonathan's point, the fella spoke to me afterwards and actually said that he was so impressed with his use of his body language, which is something we don't really talk about too often. He says he couldn't believe how easily he communicated with just pulling his jersey, you know, looking at the referee, and, you know, using his signals and his body language to communicate with him. And he thought it was excellent. So maybe he's learned to put that mouth quiet.
Well, I tell you what, Claire, this is funny. You mentioned body language and the way people carry themselves, right? If I went onto a field and I'm playing and Jonathan's the ref, I'm going to like him straight away because he's got a lovely smiley face, right?
Not all the time, Jackie. Not all the time.
You know, so while we're on the mutual appreciation thing, I suppose it's fascinating, and I've never heard those files, Claire, of refs mic'd up. I would say it's absolutely fascinating, and to work on those, I'd say, is incredible.
Yeah, look, it's trying to look at the whole behaviour element involved, Jackie. We're just trying to move things to the next level. Everything's moving on in sport, and it's more as well a support mechanism for the referees. And I must say, they're a brilliant group. Anything we've put to them, they take it. It's not like they don't see it as, oh, this is a stick to beat us with. They're like, this is brilliant. This is going to improve us. We're going to have these videos. We're going to have now some behavioural elements. We're really going to see how we communicate effectively, how it really helps us in that game situation. So if we have challenges regarding communication with players or the sideline or anything, we learn from it, and we learn from each other. And it's brilliant that we can do that. And we're hoping, sort of on the referee development element side of it, that this helps us develop the referees to help them with challenges and possibly setbacks that they have in games.
Okay. Lorraine, do you mind me asking you? You don't have to reference the incident or what it was about or anything like that, but in broad brushstrokes or wider terms, what are the biggest challenge, or what's the biggest challenge or challenges you've faced along the refereeing path where maybe people haven't been very nice to you after a game, for example?
Always one that sticks to mind, and it was early on when I was refereeing, and it was an underage game actually in Dublin, and just the stuff from the sideline was so incessant that I let it affect me refereeing the game. Really got to me, and I walked away from that game thinking, I don't think I want to do this. But then I just I picked myself up, and I was refereeing the following week, and I said, I need to just focus on my own style and not let the sideline get to me. And then the next day out, I had a great time refereeing, and I really enjoyed the game. But it was just to get away, to turn the corner on that, because I had walked away from that game thinking that was it.
Lorraine, did you talk? How did you deal with it? Did you talk to somebody about it, or was it a case that, okay, to get over this, I need to get back into the arena? And
it was kind of self-reflection, just in terms of, is there anything I could have done maybe to just not let it escalate to the point that it got to, if you know what I mean? And so I know we talk a lot about what do you do if somebody's constantly at you at the sideline, and I would have been very, at the start of my career, not dealing with shouting from the sideline. And then I do remember a couple of games after that, I had something similar, and I just spoke to the person on the sideline before it got to the point that they were constantly shouting. And I said, that's it, I can't, you're distracting everybody, stop doing what you're doing. And that seemed to kind of work. And then that was kind of, I suppose, another tool then in my locker to be able to deal with that kind of thing on the sideline.
And that's experience. That's
100% experience.
People think that experience is, I've 20 years experience. You know, it's not the length of time, it's the actual things that happen to you along the way that shape you. Their experiences, and they all add up to the wider experience piece. Jonathan, I thought we were going to have a BBC moment there in the background when the door opened, but you're all right. Same question to you, Jonathan, in terms of, you know, I saw some stuff on social last year, which, you know, you're like, wow, the phone blows up with notifications, to be honest. But from your own personal experience, and again, you don't have to go into the specifics of what it was, but in broad terms, was there a major challenge or a crossroads you reached at any stage in your refereeing journey?
I think I done this reset button with Clare a couple of weeks ago. I'd been on the accelerator 14, so I'd started on the national panel and kind of reffing 15. I'd done a match in 16, Jackie. It was a quarter final. It was a senior quarter final. Doesn't make a difference. But it went really, really well. It went really well. I assumed it went really, really well. Very little noise about it. It was 3 or 4 points in the game. All good, I thought. You know what I mean? Went home, whatever. Went home, got dinner and all that kind of stuff. Next thing, I got an assessor's assessment. I suppose. I think it was Wednesday I got it. And I was shocked. I got a poor assessment. It was a very poor assessment. From what I thought I had done a good match, you know. That knocked me. Like, I went out and I refereed in Carlow. I think it was the following night after that. And I was shocked on Jackie. If anyone had to see me that night, I shouldn't have been allowed on the pitch. I had no confidence. Didn't trust anything I'd done. I was half guessing myself. Blowing the whistle. Are you sure that's a free, Johnny? Are you sure? You know? You sure that's... Yeah, every time, Jackie. Every time. And that experience alone, never mind the assessment, never mind the match, whatever it was, that experience alone of that just helped me so much as regards taking setbacks, knockbacks, get on with it. That was 16, and I still went on to do a junior final that year in 16 and done an intermediate in 19 and 20. And the LGFA are great for that support, and progress, I suppose. If you're willing to learn, they're willing to help, you know, and that's brilliant. But it took, I'm not going to lie to you, it took the guts of a week, if not 2 weeks, to get over that. Just to trust yourself in your decisions. And as Claire says, matches. That will make you learn, and that will get over that as well. But matches, my thing, is what brings you that experience. Let it be an under 12 match, senior match, whatever it is, you will learn from all those matches.
Do you know what I liked what you said earlier on about, you know, how would you deal with a scenario that maybe has never ever arisen before? Because you think you've seen it all in our game, not our sport in general, and then something happens and you hear the commentator saying, "I've never seen that before," or "Have we ever seen that before?" It's absolutely incredible. But Claire, Jonathan talks about the assessor there and the assessment that he got. Now, the assessment might have been wrong, the assessment might have been right, or the assessment might have been very subjective, because people, by their nature, are different. So you might see something that you think is a foul, but to somebody else, it might not be a foul, or somebody might be assessing by the book, and not leaving that little leeway for interpretation, as we spoke about earlier on. So it's a tricky one. The whole assessment and how referees can take it and whether they agree or disagree. How do you deal with that, just in the overall sense?
Deal with it very often.
Because I guess, you know, and knowing the referees and a good few of them, they're eager to learn, and if they've done something wrong, well, I don't like saying the word wrong or incorrect or whatever, they'll want to improve, I'm sure.
I think I'm sort of in the lucky position where I'm sort of the middle woman between it all.
Pilot.
Yeah. It's a bit harsh, Jack. You would laugh hard.
It's an analogy, Claire.
I work with the assessors, and we do every year. I review the forms, I review their assessments as a group, and we review to try and get a consistent approach among their reports. And I definitely think that that's improving around that element. And then I provide the referee with the assessment from the assessor, and I'm able, we ask our actual referee after they get a assessment to ring their assessor to have that chat, Jackie.
Okay,
say, you know, okay, you've marked down incident A, B, C, and D. This is my point of view on it, because this is a lot of times people don't realise, especially at the minute we're assessing via the TV, Jackie, so we don't get a full screen of the referee. A lot of the time the referee's out of the picture because they're focused on the players. So it's hard at the moment, even for our assessors, to get a full picture of the game, and you know, where was the referee's positioning at that time, where was their signalling, did they make that mistake because of A, B, and C? And sometimes assessors can be blindsided by the sun in their eye, or they didn't see an incident, or they see it from a very different point of view from the referee. So they're seeing it from this side and the referee's right in line with left. So it can be two different points of view. So we would encourage them to ring their assessor after every assessment and have that general chat. And it should only be 5-10 minutes, Jackie, but saying, I'm thinking of A, B, and C. What did you think? This is my opinion on it. And the assessor would say, oh, well, look, this is my opinion on it. And that's the way we'd like to see them go. More of a mutual supportive. And because we're really trying to get away from the stick and beaten sort of scenario.
Yeah, that's a good approach, Claire. Yeah.
Yeah, and the biggest thing for me, since I came in, I'm in post from 2018, so I'm working with a lot of this from then. We're now using our video evidence to sort of back up the assessments, Jackie. So I get a report now, and before the referee says that I'm through that report with a fine-tooth comb. If there's a couple of incidents on that I think the referee's not going to be happy with, I go and get the footage and I look at them incidents myself. And if I can cut that off beforehand, I would ring the assessor and say, I don't think you should have A or B in it. I've re-looked at the video footage and I'm going to send it to you to have a look at. And we're trying to sort of do that element of it even before it gets out to the referees, that we're making sure that what we're putting into the report is accurate from what we can now look back on with our video evidence. Thanks very much to Lidl and TG4 and Newfound for the amount of coverage we have now. Is just brought our ability to develop the lads to an even better and bigger level.
Good to hear. Lorraine, look, we've talked about challenges and setbacks and all of the stuff that, you know, is probably more on the negative slant, I'll put it to you that way. But I mean, refereeing is obviously a calling for you guys, and I mean, you must obviously love it to do what you're doing. So I suppose anybody that's thinking about picking up the whistle, and we have various avenues to explore in that regard if anybody does fancy becoming a referee. I mean, what's the advice that you would give somebody?
You'll surprise yourself, I think. Like, even on a personal level, the confidence it can build in you personally as a person is great. You get to stay involved in the game. You get to, like, I started a lot at national level doing the line, and I've been lines person for Johnny a few times, so I'm well used to a chat.
All good.
But, yeah, it's that and the camaraderie, and yeah, it's all great. I would recommend anyone who is even thinking about it to do it. There's, as I said, like, the pathway is there to go from just reffing underage up to national if you really want to do that. And yeah, I'd love, and I want to see more female referees as well. So sorry, yeah. Johnny.
I agree.
We're getting there, Claire. I mean, are we noticing an uptake in not just the numbers wanting to referee, but female referees? I think we are, yeah.
Yeah, we're working hard on it, Jackie, and opening up them doors, and we need more female role models, and we need to keep showcasing that it's okay to do it. And that seems to be the biggest challenge. We have a brilliant female leadership program with an officiating style now, with referee academies. There's avenues there. We just need the females now, and especially the ex-players. I think, you know, Lorraine sort of touched on.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, those girls that have been there and done that. on the pitch for years of playing and maybe take a year or two after they've retired. Refereeing is a great way to pick it back up again and stay involved in the sport that you love for so long.
Jonathan, any particular thoughts on that yourself and on the refereeing journey? I mean, it's obviously been very good to you.
Yeah, very good. I mean, Lorraine touched on it earlier about me starting. I wouldn't have been the quietest on the line. I think I was we whistled where my mouth was kind of thing, and that's how I started it. And there's great support there. Clare even runs buddy systems, that kind of thing. They're brilliant. They're absolutely brilliant. I was actually on one last year, and she's actually she had a hard game on the buddy system thing that we had, and she rang me that call, and we stayed on the phone for an hour and a half that night talking through this incident that she had. I don't think that support was probably there maybe 10 years ago, but that support is there now, and it's great support, because you do need it, Jackie, and especially if you're only starting out, like, you do build friends at it, but it does take time. It does take time to build that friendship as regards with other referees and all that you trust, that you need to trust these people that you're talking to, these scenarios. But like, that is there. It is there now, I think, that Clare set up these buddy systems and that kind of pathways and stuff.
Yeah, and long may it continue. It's great stuff, Clare.
Cheers.
Clare, do you want to wrap it up in terms of what we've discussed? I mean, we've covered a lot there. We could cover a lot more.
Yeah, I think the big message, from all of us is get out there and referee. You're going to make mistakes. It doesn't matter. You learn from them. You self-reflect on those mistakes. You think of ways even to stop and breathe during a game, or take a moment for yourself to reset that mind and go on again. But to have the courage, because if you pick up the whistle and have the courage to go out there and do it, you're actually going to thrive in that environment as a person. Your confidence, your mental health, your physical health, friendship, everything. It's such a good avenue for you to do it. So don't be afraid, I suppose, to referee, and expect challenges, and then find that support around them to help you deal with them, and then move on from it. Forget about it. That's the big thing. Maybe just park it and get on to the next game. And the more games you have, the better it will be. But to enjoy it, enjoy the experience of it.
Yeah, I prefer real referees to Twitter referees, I can tell you that. There's too many of them out there.
Twitter warrior yourself.
Oh, yeah, but sure, look, we'll talk about that another day. Folks, great to have you on. Clare Dowdall, Lorraine O'Sullivan, and Jonathan Murphy, my special guests today. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks very much, Jackie.